Yes, welcome to everybody. Today's date, June the 14th, 2024. Thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate it. It's good to be back, not to be in some dungeon next to the lake where I have daddy longlegs, which are the deadliest spider ever, all around me. But I had nerves of steels, nevertheless. It's June the 14th, 2024. This is episode number 26 of Into the Fire, coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And what a night we're going to have tonight. We've got a very, very special guest. It's going to be Kathy Kleiner. She just mentioned off the air, and I love it, and I'm going to steal this. I'm going to just mention she's a serial survivor. She's encountered a lot of interesting things in her life, and she's going to be very, very candid with us. And basically, she said, whatever we want to talk about, we can talk about it. And we're going to jump into a lot of really dark things. I want to mention to the people that are listening to this. Kathy has spoke many, many times, and actually this is therapeutic for her. And actually one day, she talks about her story to inspire others. So this is not a situation where we're trying to bring up dark stuff that is, continually traumatizing her. She likes talking about this stuff and hopes to inspire others. So that's going to be good for everybody. Ronnie, how you been, bud?
I've been well.
You're killing it back in the cold case room.
I'm trying.
Tell us about your week.
Continuing to look into a couple cases from the 80s, sending off some lab requests. So we're hopeful that we'll get some DNA or fingerprint stuff that has either fallen through the cracks or just as technology has improved, they're able to do additional testing. I would say that's more the case than stuff falling through the cracks, at least on these couple cases we've been looking at. And then actually yesterday, I got a call from a guy who works up in the Seattle, Washington area, and he came in contact with a lady who was providing some information about a 2006 case. So I was digging through that yesterday afternoon and then a little bit this morning. But no, it's going well, and it's just been nice to be back there and seeing you guys on a daily basis. And
yeah, it's been great. It's been really a lot of fun. It's like my little buddies came back into my life, and it's been a ton of fun. This is my second episode that I'm not wearing glasses. So it's just contacts and they're an adjustment. So it's been fun. The other thing I want to mention real quick, and we Ronnie and I actually put together a presentation. We were asked to put together a presentation to the Tulsa Police Foundation, which happens to be an organization that they do take donations. And what they do with those donations is they actually purchase things for the police department that are big ticket items that we just really don't have the money. Yeah. Well, you know what? I love that, Amanda. That's great. I am the real Tulsa King, but that was I'm still trying to steal that. I'm going to put that up on the magnet. But what we ended up doing is that the Tulsa Police Foundation had invited us to speak and be able to present so we could try to get a big ticket item. And that big ticket item that we're looking for is called an MVAC. Tell us what that is, Ronnie.
It is basically a wet vac, like a carpet cleaner, where we can get DNA off of a variety of items, really anything. You can there's a sterile solution that goes through some tubes. It goes to a vacuum head. That solution gets on the substance you're looking for DNA on, and then another tube sucks it into a little vessel, and then it's poured through a filter, and you get it. And it's probably a lot of people listening will remember our buddy Doug from Colorado a few weeks ago. That's one of the devices he uses. So we were looking into it more, and you and I have been talking about that for years. And we had that opportunity on Wednesday, I think it was, to go talk to those people. And I feel like the reception we got was really good. And we're hopeful that foundation will buy us one. And if not, just maybe give some funds to help supplement the purchase. But yeah.
If any departments, anybody that's listening, because I know there's a lot of cops from coast to coast that actually listen to us, whether they work night shift or they work whatever, from California to North Carolina. I already know this for a fact. If you're listening and that's something that you're interested in learning more on, I'll be happy to provide you with additional information. I think it's a fantastic thing. Between Ronnie joining the cold case unit and us potentially getting an MVAC, look out. If you committed murder in Tulsa and it's cold, it's about ready to heat up, and you better start looking over your shoulder, ladies and gentlemen, if you committed the murder, because we're coming after you. but it's going to really be really big for us to have an item like that, and I'm excited about it. And I thought we did a great job on that. If you're looking to donate to something and you live in the Tulsa area, I'm sure that you don't want to donate if you live in Seattle, but if you live in anywhere USA and you're looking to donate for a good cause, the Tulsa Police Foundation is an exceptional organization, and they're always looking, and they actually are very, very responsible for the money that they receive. And in some instances, they actually do. What's some of the stuff that they do also? It's gift cards and things.
Yeah.
Random acts of kindness is what they
Yeah. They've bought stuff for the police department for ballistic shields, among other things. And then there's been more than once you and I went out and they would get gift cards, and we would just randomly walk up to people at a store and give them one. Or if there was victims from our murders we worked, we would go hand out turkeys at Christmas time. So it's a great organization. So yeah, any help that people wanted to give to them would be greatly appreciated.
All right. That's good. We'll answer more questions about it. If you have any further questions in reference to that, go to my Facebook page. Let's get to this exceptional guest. And I'm telling you, she's an all-star. She's somebody that she looked me up. I mean, she researched. She went through Cheryl McCollum, who's an all-star crime scene detective in Georgia, to make sure that we're good and we're legit. So and I actually respect the fact that she did that. So let's introduce you to Kathy Kleiner. Basically, in the fall of 1976, she attended Florida State University and pledged Chi Omega Sorority. On January 15th, 1978, she was attacked by Ted Bundy. He entered the sorority house and attacked 4 women, killing 2. Kathy was one of the 2 victims who was brutally beaten and survived that night. She would have to confront evil 2 more times while giving her deposition and again testifying at Bundy's trial in Miami. I think she testified. I'll have to clarify that. The trial was in Tallahassee, but she testified in the deposition in Miami, if I'm not mistaken. Over the years, she has been honored to be interviewed by the international press as well as media from around the country. She has presented at several conferences, including CrimeCon, the American Investigative Society of Cold Cases, the Cyril Weck Institute's annual Forensic Science and Law Symposium, CSI Atlanta Convention, as well as being featured on 2020, Nancy Grace, Dr. Oz, CNN, 48 Hours, Investigation Discovery, and many, many more. It's our pleasure to invite Kathy Kleiner to the show. Kathy Kleiner Bruner to the show. Ruben, it's Ruben. What in the heck am I thinking? Bruner. No. Kathy Kleiner. Ruben, I'm sorry.
That's gosh. Fine. Hi, everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
It is our pleasure. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's start off with just tell us who Kathy is.
I am married for 35 years. I have a son who's 42 and 2 grandchildren. There's our little son. When Mike and I first I'll tell you about this, but I was a single parent for a number of years. So Michael and I got very close during that time. But as a child, I was diagnosed at age 13 with lupus, systemic lupus. And they didn't know what was wrong with me. I was sick in 6th grade and didn't do anything but want to sleep. They took me to the hospital for an exam, and I ended up staying there for 3 months. They took tests and biopsies, and at that point in 1970s, they didn't know lupus as a disease so much, and also not as a disease in younger people. So they actually sent me home from the hospital and told my parents to make me comfortable, that they had no reason why I was dying. And a doctor from Cuba contacted my folks and said that she wanted to give me experimental chemo to see if that could help, because she thought I might have lupus. So my parents said yes, and for 9 months I endured chemo. It was my 7th grade of school. I was homebound. I couldn't go out. No one could come in. I took my chemo, and I would be so sick, and I'd go home and want to crawl on my bed. And after my 2nd session of chemo, I lost my hair. I lost all of my hair, and I was bald. And I was sitting in my house while my parents went to work and my sister went to school. And in the first couple of months, I'd just stay in bed because that's all I could do. But later on during the year, I felt better. So I'd sit up and watch television and did my homebound homework and just kind of didn't have much to do. I got a puppy, so I would play with the puppy and watch soap operas and cartoons, which were pretty much all they had. And I get so lonely that sometimes I would call the operator. I dial 0 just to have someone to talk to. And most of the time they talked to me for a few minutes, and other times they were too busy. But this lasted for a year. I started getting my energy back. So at the end of the 7th grade, I told my parents I wanted to go out and do something. And they're like, no, we want to keep you in longer. And finally, I talked them into church. I knew they'd let me go to church. So we went, sat in the back of the pews. I went home, and not 2 weeks later, I had shingles.
Oh my
So
gosh.
now I have no hair. I have shingles all over my neck and face. And I'm just waiting for a better day because, I wasn't feeling sorry myself. I was mad that this was all happening and I wanted to get better and I wanted to go back to school, and I had to wait for these things to happen before I could do that. So I was grateful when I could go to 8th grade. That was a great time for me. No one knew me. I mean, as kids, you're kind of fickle. You play with someone, and when they're not there anymore, you just, oh, well, let's play with somebody else. So I wasn't missed, and I didn't have a lot of friends then.
So you went on there, and then you ended up, you left, you went through high school. I think I heard somewhere that you picked a college that was the farthest away from your mother, or
Yeah.
that was still in state's tuition, right?
Yes.
And at the time you were living in Southern Florida, but then you went up to Tallahassee to Florida State University.
Yes.
And what was your goal when you went there?
I wanted to get a degree in something. I hadn't yet decided what. So I was taking all the required courses and some of the elected courses. But as a freshman, I left and left high school, went to FSU, like you said, is far away from my parents, and had a great time. Since I was in a bubble for so many years in the past, I was just enjoying myself and looking around and having fun. And one of the things that a lot of women do when they first, as a freshman, they join a college, they go through rush. And rush is a time when female students walk in their prettiest dresses and they have a convention, say, and they are separated into different groups. And at the same time, the sororities are having their little convention and getting ready because the two are going to meet. We're going to walk down the streets, and there's 4 or 5 of us, and we're going to go to one sorority house that we think we may want to join. And we'll talk to the sisters, and they'll talk to us. And about 10 minutes later, we walk down to another house, and the sisters are outside clapping and singing songs. And we go in the house, and we tell them about us, and they tell us about them. And then we walk out and go to another house. Well, right after we leave, we didn't know, but they were writing notes on us like, yes, I think she would be a good sister, or no. And so during the week, the process, it kind of whittled down to at the end of the week, you had a choice. You had to choose a sorority house that you wanted to join. And if you were lucky enough, that sorority wanted you to join them. And I was lucky, and Chi Omega invited me to join them. So I was a pledge now for Chi Omega. And it was great. I was enjoying it. I was in college, and going to parties and studying. And I remember I wanted to be an anthropologist, I thought, until I was on a dig out in school, and I broke one of my fingernails. And I thought, well, this is a little too exertion for me. I don't need this physical activity. So then I stopped doing that, and I went to meteorology, and I wanted to see myself on TV. Giving the weather, but that didn't work out either. So I was just having fun playing with different things that I might want to be.
Right.
So how did I guess let's just get into talk about the night that I guess your life changed again and you continued your serial survivorship.
Yes. I joined the house, moved into the house in the fall of 1977. I had my bedroom. It was a 2-story sorority house, And my room was on the second floor, and it faced the back of the sorority over the parking lot. When you went upstairs of the sorority house, my bedroom was on the left side. You walked in, and it was the size of a dorm room. It had mirrored on each side a desk, a dresser, and our headboard was facing the back wall. And against that whole back wall, if you look, there was a pane of windows. It was beautiful. And we had our curtains open all the time because we hung plants hanging on the curtain rods. So this is what my room looked like. On Saturday, the 14th, the day before the attack, I spent it out all day with a friend, and we went shopping and did stuff. And in the evening, I went and did a potluck dinner with a bunch of my friends. And then I realized I had a test on calculus on Monday. So I figured I should at least open the book and see what this is about. So I went home early from the potluck dinner and crawled into bed and studied. And my roommate was also in her bed studying at that time. So we, 11:30 or 12, we turned off the lights. We went to bed. Between our bed, we had a little foot locker. And that's a little foot, like a locker where you put things. And on the locker, was books and where I put my glasses. And this was between our twin beds. So that night, sometime around 3 a.m, someone came up through the back door of the sorority house. They picked up a piece of oak log that was sitting right next to the back door that we use for firewood. The back door, the combination was broken. This person walked in through the back door, through the recreation room toward the front of the house. He went up the big wooden staircase that led to the second floor. He turned, and the first door he came to, he opened, and it was Margaret Bowman's room. He closed the door, and he attacked Margaret. He strangled her, and beat her with that oak club. He killed her. He put the sheets up over her chin and made it look like she was sleeping. And he turned around, left the room, closed the door, and went to the next room. And across the hall was Lisa Levy. She was at home that night alone in her bed. He attacked her. He did terrible things to her. He raped her. He mutilated her. He bit her on her butt and on her breast. And he left her for dead, although she was still breathing. He left her room, closed the door, walked across the hall, which was my room. He opened the door, and I heard the door swish under the carpet. And as I'm sleeping, I heard this noise, and it was something I didn't recognize. It just kind of woke me up a little bit. The next thing I hear is this big thud, this big trip. Someone had tripped between that footlocker that my roommate and I had between our beds. And I open my eyes and I look up, and all I see in the dark is the silhouette of someone tall, someone standing next to me. And he raised his arm up over his head. I could tell he had something in his hand. I didn't know at the time, but it was that oak log that he had just killed Margaret and Lisa with. He attacked me with that. He slammed it down on my face so hard. It broke my jaw in 3 places. My cheek was cut open. You could see the inside of my mouth. I almost bit my tongue off. It was just hanging there. I had my chin severed. It was a mess. I was just in awe, and I passed out. Well, now my roommate heard something going on, and she woke up. This person walked across the room to her and attacked her with that same log. When she passed out, he heard me moving around again. And we didn't know, but this person never left someone alive. People he attacked, he killed. He came back to my side of the bed, and I'm scrunched up into the smallest little ball I could be, because I figured if he couldn't see me, he wouldn't kill me. So as I'm in my little ball, all of a sudden, the light illuminated. It was really bright, and I lift my head out from under the sheets, and I saw this person person standing there, and he was kind of antsy, and he was like not sure what to do. And this light, the way it illuminated the room, was so bright, and then it faded away, and this person ran out of our room. He ran out of the stairs and out of the sorority house. And that light was from a car bringing home a sorority sister late from a date that night. It was around 3 o'clock in the morning. At that point, everything goes in and out for me as far as conscious and unconscious. The next thing I know, they called the paramedics and the police, and I opened my eyes, and at the head of my bed was a police officer, and he was looking down at me, and he was saying it was going to be okay. And for a few moments, I knew I was going to be okay because he wasn't going to let someone hit me again. And that peace gave me something to attach to, although everything else in my world right now was crumbling. And I didn't understand my injuries. And the paramedics took care of me. And then they carried me down the front staircase that were beautiful wooden, that weren't so beautiful right now. And they carried me out by the 2 front doors of the sorority house. And as I got out, I'm on the stretcher, and it's starting to rain, and it's misty, and it's cold. And I look, and he's walking right next to me. He's right at the head of me. And I recognized him again. It was the same person. So they're walking me down the sidewalk. As I'm going, I see the lights. The lights were swirling from the police car and the ambulance and the fire trucks. And I could hear the radio squawking, people talking to each other, the police. And as I turned my head, I thought I was in a carnival. I looked down, and I could see the fairway. I could see the midway of the carnival. I could hear the people talking, and I could hear the rides going on. And then we walked by, and that vision, that hallucination went away. And they put me into the ambulance. And when they closed the door, there was my police officer on the other side. He made sure that I got into the ambulance. And one thing I'd like to say here is that when a victim goes through something like this, and they're having a hallucination, or they're telling you they're somewhere and they're fishing, or they're doing something, to go along with whatever you hear that they're saying. Don't say, no, you've been attacked, I'm here. Don't bring them back down. Let them be where they are, and kind of just let them feel the peace they have when they're in that moment. And I think that makes such a difference, that that would really help victims as going forward. But the police have such an important role at that point. The first thing a victim sees and the feel of support they feel was very, very intense with me. And I praise him that he was my little angel taking care of me that night.
Yeah, you've talked about this an awful lot, and it's interesting to me. There's been times when you there's certain things that you remember very, very vividly. There's no doubt. You talk about the sticky. It was sticky, and that's probably going to be the blood, is what I'm assuming.
Yes.
And just things like that, and you do remember that you talk about. There's probably have you had a lot of the memory kind of come to you, or did you not really know much about what had happened, or right after this thing had happened, and then things started coming to you?
Right away, I did not know. I couldn't put things together. And right after the attack, before the police came, I remember I was in my bed, and I was yelling, and I was screaming for help. But all I was doing was making those gurgling sounds because of the blood in my face and in my mouth. And my jaw was just dangling. And as loud as I thought I was, no one could hear me. Not until my roommate got out of her bed. She was attacked, but she was able to get out of her bed and walk into the hallway. And the police, the sorority sisters saw her, and that's when they called the police.
Yeah,
but I remember that taste of the blood was kind of like sucking on a penny or something. It had just this metallic taste, and it was just something I'll never forget. But that evening was such a blur for me. When I was in the hospital for a week in Tallahassee, right after the attack, I was seen by psychiatrists. The detectives, of course, wanted to know everything they could from me. And I didn't have any information, and my jaw was wired, and I wasn't communicating well. So they hired 2 psychiatrists to come to me, and they actually hypnotized me so that possibly I could remember anything that would help the detectives, or anything that could lead somewhere for someone to find out who did this. And while I was under hypnosis, I heard in my head what happened. I put myself back there, and I heard that door open, and I heard him trip over that footlocker, and I heard these things in my head that I felt like I was not telling the truth when this was coming out, because I had no memory of it, but it was coming forth. And other things that happened that night that I do remember now was because they did come back to me, but they came back to me because I knew what to look for. And when it came back, it wasn't like, oh my God, am I making this up? Or, did I put this in my head? It was actually there. And so that helped me to process what was going on through me at that point.
I think a thing that you're bringing up that's important for people to know, including cops, when we're dealing with different cases, is all this craziness is going on, and you didn't hear anything or didn't awake until that door's opening. And I know there's been multiple cases I've been on where we're interviewing somebody, whether it's a civilian or a cop, and something crazy happens just right near them, and they're like, I didn't hear or see any of that. And it's not that they're lying or trying to trick you or anything. Sometimes there's just their focus is on something else, or in your case, you're so deep in sleep that who knows what can happen, and you really don't see or hear anything. And
Right.
and a lot of people at times are like, no, there's no way you didn't hear this or you didn't see that. But you're just another example of how that's actually accurate and true.
Yes.
And that's always fascinated me. There's the brain, how it knows stuff or it avoids other stuff.
Right. And as soon as I heard him trip over the trunk, that's when I totally woke up. And that's why he never said anything. He never said anything to me when he attacked, nor my roommate whom he attacked. And he came back to my side. He never said anything. And the only thing that happened was the light. So it wasn't something that scared him away. It wasn't like people were coming in or that he was finished. It was that light scared him away. And I spoke with Cheryl McCullum and some other police officers who said they never would have thought that. It was so outside of the box that they never would have thought something external like that would be the reason for him to leave. And I believe if he was not scared out of our room, he would have gone up and down that hall.
And that's I'm actually surprised that didn't happen, really. And the other thing that you'd mentioned before other times is that you talked about you didn't have any pain. It didn't initially. I mean, I'm sure that did come because I've heard you talk about where they had to re-break your jaw again. I can't even imagine that. But you didn't have any pain during the attack.
Right. When he hit me, it didn't hurt. It felt like he was like hitting a bag of potatoes. It wasn't excruciating. It didn't hurt. And then when he attacked my roommate, I think at that point I was hurting. Then the sensations came in. But at first I didn't feel pain. It was weird. It was afterwards, I think, where the neurons were firing and everything was hurting at that point. And then I've never felt such pain as that.
At what point, so all this horrible stuff has happened, you're in the hospital. At what point do the cops and then ultimately you have everything put together and, hey, the guy that attacked us is Ted Bundy and this is who he is? Well, he wasn't arrested for a couple of months after the attack. So about a month after the attack, he had his fling. It's terrible to say with Cheryl Leach, and she was a little girl down in Oakland, Florida. Kimberly Leach, I'm sorry, and she was attacked by Ted Bundy. He picked her up out of school and threw her in his van and took her away and mutilated her, attacked her, and killed her. After that is when he was leaving the state and went up to Pensacola to leave and go out of the state, and that's where they initially caught him, not knowing it was Ted Bundy. So during the month, the police were doing actively what they do,
in trying to figure out, and Bundy left no fingerprints. There was nothing in the house itself that could have led people to it was him. And I was at home recovering, and I couldn't help much. And it was the detectives and the police doing their work that actually helped, because when Bundy was located in Pensacola, just before he left to go into Alabama, he was stopped on a auto theft charge,
Yeah.
and he was ran away from the cop. They stopped the car. He got out. He goes, "You don't know who I am. You have no idea." And the police officer said, "Give me your ID." And he started running. And Bundy took off, and the police officer chased him down and caught him and cuffed him and took his ID. And he had several pieces of ID. So he's right. They didn't know who he was. But even back then, in 1978, he was arrested in Utah, and he had been known to the police in Colorado. But all this information had not made its way to Tallahassee, because it wasn't, as I understand, an exchange of information like there is now. So by them finally sending him to Tallahassee, Ken Casares was the sheriff of Leon County, and he made arrangements for Ted Bundy, who they didn't know it was him, to be taken over to Leon County and put into that jail. And Ken Casares was amazing. He did everything he could do to make sure that they caught Bundy and that he was the right guy. He went through all the paces to be sure that they had correctly picked him. And what he did was he saw some similarities in the case with me and the cases out in Utah. So he called them on the phone and got information, and that's how they knew it was Bundy. It took that long to put the pieces together for them to realize who it was.
And I think I saw Ken talking on 48 Hours, where the night that your incident happened, he actually did get a phone call from some detectives that were, I don't know if it was from Washington State. I think it was Washington State, that actually said, "Hey, you need to consider Ted Bundy." And he wrote it down. He'd heard of Ted Bundy, but he'll admit that he didn't really think much of it, because he's like, yeah, I mean, how the heck would he be way down here? Or he just wasn't thinking that. And then actually there was another girl that night that was within 2 blocks or something along those lines, that actually got attacked by Bundy as well. And the one that leaves me to, I want to mention this real quick. You went through all of this, because I don't want to miss out on this, but you went through all of this healing, you're doing all of this stuff, and I really want to mention this because I think it drives me crazy, and I know we talked about this off the air, but still, you didn't get any calls from the college or your sorority sisters to even check on you or anything, and that kind of sickens me, to be honest with you, Kathy. That's not your take on it, but that's my take, and that just, it's fascinating that they didn't even reach out to you to even check to see how you were doing. I'm trying to wrap my head around that a little bit.
Yeah, I thought I needed them. I thought I needed them to tell me it was all right and I had done nothing wrong, and they were there for me, and I wanted their arms wrapped around me. And over the years, I knew I didn't need them. I did it myself without them. I was strong enough, and I was going to get through it, and I didn't need them to help me get through it. So I'm at peace with it now. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen.
Right. I'm also surprised that the college didn't take care of the rest of your college education,
Yeah.
And did you ever learn why nobody ever reached out?
No, it took more time in it. I mean, I have so much to do and so much to go out there and do and live for. I just didn't feel it was necessary for me to go backtrack and, for what end, to hear, "Oh yes, we're sorry."
Right.
Yeah. But something, I just, because you knew all those other girls pretty well.
Yes.
Yeah. And the girls that were killed, I mean, did you ever even speak to the parents, or there was none of that?
No, I was recuperating. I was pretty bad down in South Miami, and I was by myself, and I did have my jaw wired shut for 3 weeks in Tallahassee. They wired it, And then in Miami, I had to have it broken and realigned because it wasn't set correctly. So I had to have my jaw rebroken again, which was very uncomfortable. And then they wired me shut for 9 weeks. So,
and you had to have wire cutters around your neck, or
yeah.
what was that for again?
As soon as my mouth was wired shut, they gave me nail clippers on a on a necklace. And I had to have that with me 24/7 in case I started to aspirate or cough or choke or something that I had to open my mouth. So someone always slept in the room with me. My parents, we had twin beds in my house in Miami, and my sister always slept next to me, and she had the wire cutters on the necklace around her neck when she slept with me at night. So she was like, "That's my job." She said she didn't sleep a lot because just in case. But I was her little sister, and she was going to take care of me. But thank God we never had to use them. But
Right.
that's a story now. But that's why I had my clippers around my neck.
So you get through all of that, and then you have to face Bundy in court in Tallahassee. By the way, I like that judge. The judge, just the listeners here, you can literally watch, if not the whole trial, it's on YouTube. The whole trial is on YouTube, and I actually started going down that rabbit hole of watching hours of the trial, which was fascinating. As a matter of fact, your testimony is on there in its entirety.
Yes,
and it was kind of and there you are, and it was kind of what I took from you taking the stand is you were being positive and bubbly on the stand and doing your best, and I just, you weren't on the stand a terrible length of time because, you really didn't see him per se, as far as being able to identify him.
Yeah.
But what was that like, taking the stand and there he is in the courtroom?
Well, the first time I saw him at the deposition, and I walked in and I didn't know what a deposition was. And this was in Tallahassee. And they walked me in. It was a conference room with a long conference table. And I sat at the head of the table, and I looked up, and there was Bundy at the other end of the table. And there was the defense on one side and the prosecution on the other side asking me questions. And I don't remember what they asked, but I remember staring down Bundy. I wasn't afraid. I felt safe where I was in my surroundings. And I just looked at him, and he just kind of was flippant, just sitting there like, whatever, let's get this over with. That was the first time I saw him. And the second time was during the grand jury. And again, I was taken into the courtroom, and he was sitting there. And I looked at him, and I felt strong now. I felt good that he was still there, and he was going to be in trouble. And he was going to pay for everything. I felt so strong about it, even before the trial. Then comes the trial. The deposition and grand jury were done in Tallahassee. They moved the trial to Miami because of so much publicity in Tallahassee. They didn't think they could get a fair jury. So that's when it was moved to Miami.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I did the testimony down in Miami.
So nowadays, the court system has a victim witness center. They have advocates that are with victims of crimes and their families and stuff. How did the DA's office, the court system, how did they treat you, and did you have any help with them or anything, or were you just kind of out there on your own?
I was out there on my own. My parents were there, my brother and my sister in South Florida. We had a close little group that took care of me, my little bubble, I call it. And they didn't reach out. I mean, I guess in 78, it was just, you got attacked and you're not dead, so let's keep going,
Yeah.
And so they didn't reach out. And I had no therapist at the time. It wasn't offered to me to go see a therapist. So I kind of dealt with everything I've gone through on my own. And I don't know if I came out better for it, but it's how I treat myself and how I got through the issues that I had to go through.
So did he confess to attacking you guys there at the house?
during I guess it was his last days, they had the interviews, and Ted Koppel, I believe, was the investigator and the psychiatrist that talked to him and everything. He never did admit to killing or to our attacks. He did say that he turned in some girls that were killed in Washington State and Utah, and he gave them their names and where they could be found. And he was trying to do anything he could to live on, for them not to kill him. And he was upset and, crying. And I think about his victims and all the women that he killed, and how they must have said to him, please don't kill me. Please don't. And here he was doing that, pleading for his life. And it just, that whole process, it interests me. I'm so intrigued by the way the judicial system works, and how someone who is accused of this is treated. And Ken Casares, when he took him to his cell, his jail in Leon County, he was so sure to the fact that he would never let him out. This guy was never going to get away from him. And the stories he has to tell about how he kept him in confinement, and, locked doors, and 3 doors with one lock, and one lock with 3, how 3 people had to have a key to get to him, that it was going to be that difficult.
Yeah, he had already escaped twice, in Colorado. So
yes, he did.
Yeah, that's what I would love to meet Ken one of these days. I'm talking about a guy that, I'm impressed with him. I mean, he's fun to listen to.
Yeah.
And he was somebody that really wanted justice for everybody. As a matter of fact, one of the things that he did, that he recognized that there were areas on the victims that to him looked like bite marks. And actually, this case, I don't know if it was the absolute first case, but it certainly, he kind of thinks it might have been, where it was one of the first search warrants they'd ever done in this country's history, where they had actually did a search warrant to try to get some dental comparisons. And the way he tells the story is that Bundy started screaming and raising Cain, and then after he explained to him that, hey buddy, we're getting this whether you like it or not, so you might as well just enjoy the show. And that's when Bundy goes, okay, Ken, I'm not going to give you any trouble.
Yes.
So the trial, he's found guilty. Were you there for the verdict or any of the aftermath of that?
I did not go to the verdict. I was in Miami. I was still in recuperation. It's like a year since the attack, and I'm still in my mindset of I'm going to get better, but I'm not there yet. So I did not go to the trial for anything but when I had to testify. But it was obviously the first televised trial they ever did. And I mean, he was in my house 24/7. It was so interesting. I wanted to know what was going on, but at that point, it wasn't necessary for me to be there. And when it was time for the execution, he was to be sentenced till in 1979. He was to be executed, and he had so many stays during that period after one another. I believe he had 4 stays, and after the 4th one, it was 1989, and he wasn't going to get another stay, and it was January of 1989, and they had him in jail, in prison, and they called me that night. The state attorney called me and said, this is it. They're going to do it this time. He has not received any more stays, and it's been signed. So my husband and I are in bed. It's about midnight. And we said, okay. So around 3:00 in the morning, we get another phone call that says he's still on the way. He's had his food, and, he's proceeding on what, the steps that have to be followed. So we said, okay. He goes, I'll keep in touch. And he hung up the phone. But it's like 3 a.m. We're already awake now. So we go down and turn on the television, and there's all this stuff going around the prison on the outside. There are people on each side of the side. They're pro, kill him, and no, don't kill him. So there were Bundy Fry signs out on one side of the street, and let him live on the other side of the street. And they were just going to town. But at 6:30 in the morning, I believe it was, he was executed. And I got a phone call, and they said it was done. It's over. And I said, thank you. And we hung up the phone. And my husband and I were down in the living room on a little sofa. And he wrapped his arms around me and he hugged me so tight. And I wailed and I wailed and I thought of all his victims, all those women that he killed so young in their lives. And I thought of Margaret and Lisa and how they just had their lives cut. And they were such beautiful women and so much to go for them. And I cried for them. I didn't cry for myself, though, because I knew I was okay. I didn't need him to die to be okay. But after a little bit, I stopped crying. I dried my tears. And I looked at my husband and I said, I'm hungry. Let's go to breakfast. And that's the last time Bundy came into my house.
Hey, let me remind everybody that you wrote a book.
Yes.
Of your experience, and you were helped in writing this book. Tell us who helped you write the book.
Emily LeBeau Lucchese was my co-author, and she put up so much with me.
She's been great.
Yes,
I've communicated with her a number of times trying to facilitate this and stuff, and she's very protective of you. And so, but that book, throw that up one more time, Amanda. You can buy that book on Amazon. And also, throw that up one more time, Amanda, the picture of that book.
It's available on Barnes & Noble and any of the other book sites as well.
Buy the book. It's a good book. I've been going through it here. They were kind enough to send us the manuscript. We were able to read through it. Buy the book. It's a really good book. And also, they can follow you on Facebook, and that's at Kathy Kleiner Rubin. I'm going to get it straight this time, and that's where they can follow you. And I'm sure that if they had questions for you, they could ask you. And
definitely.
And I, man, the one thing I see about you, and I want to get to this bank. She's also a victim of a bank robbery. We're going to get to that in a minute because that's kind of an entertaining story. I know it's like you've got people. There's all kinds of things happening in your world. They're trying to get you, but you are making it. So. The one thing that I wanted to, you know what I see about you? I see just somebody, I'm surprised that the police departments don't call you, when they have just like a horrific crime for you just to be like an advocate. I
would love that. I need to reach out. I mean, I know what I'm doing. It's funny, over 40 years, I never came out and talked about any of this because nobody came to me. And a lot of the reporters and media thinks that, don't traumatize her again. We don't want to do this to her as a victim.
Well, that's a first.
When CNN came around, it's like, where have you been for 40 years? Of course I want to talk about this.
Yeah. So, usually that's the last thing on their mind, actually. But but that's something that, and I know you speak, and of course, I've already had people asking me, hey man, does she speak? And is she interested in coming to this conference or whatever? And I will certainly put you in touch with at least one organization that has already inquired about you. But so that's something that you do. You speak. So if you're listening and you're interested in a real inspirational story, and we're just scratching the surface here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is not even, there's so much more that she talks about. But so this book, you wrote the book. What was that like, and how has that been received?
It was a labor of love. It was like a roller coaster ride of emotions and feelings, and I had 40 years worth of things I wanted to say. And over the years, I tried to write my own book, and I would sit down and write a story of what I was thinking. And as I did that, my son was out playing his baseball game, and I was at home writing, or he was out doing something else. And I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to sit home and write the past when I can be there and enjoy the future.
Good for you.
So at this point, but working with Emily, she was wonderful. It was like every Tuesday she would call. I'd be in a nice room and she would say, we're going to talk about lupus today. So I would go through everything in my head that I could remember about lupus and how I felt, and what the IV felt like when it was running through my veins, and how it was warm, and, everything I could think of. And she would write it down. We'd maybe 2.5-hour phone call. And then we'd hang up and she would do what she had to do for writing it. And then next Tuesday we had another topic we talked about. And it was so much to get out. And I didn't realize I was still holding more in. So by doing this, I found other things that I was holding back on that I brought forth. And it was good for me. because, the other things that I want to know about myself and how I could do better by it.
Yeah.
But that process took about 2.5 years, and she wrote so well. The words
Yeah.
I thought she wrote, and
That's awesome.
She's wonderful.
Hey,
That's
Kathy,
awesome.
a couple of our very loyal listeners have a couple questions I'll throw at you. Barb's wanting to know, how old were you when this went on? And then Steph's asking how you're doing today. I mean, my personal opinion is you seem like you're doing great, but I'll let you answer it. So, yeah, how old were you when all this happened?
I was 20.
Okay. And
20.
then I feel like you've talked about it some, but yeah, just how do you feel you're doing and that you got through all this and you're just living, it sounds like.
Yes, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. We retired 2 years ago and enjoying my family. And it's a great thing. I look forward to what I'm going to do tomorrow if it hadn't gotten me yet. So it's like, I'm happy every day, and I do get on Facebook, I get letters, and people aren't doing so well once they've been attacked, or they don't see how I'm doing it. And it's all a matter of they want to do it. They have to do it. They may not want to do it though. And if something happens to you that day or in the past, you're a victim. The next day, you're a survivor. And you have to think like that. You have to want to get better. And you might feel in the dirt and just don't want to look at anybody and talk it out. Because by talking, you release these feelings that are tying you down. And by talking it out, that makes all the world. Once I began to talk and people would listen, even though people didn't want to listen, I called zero. No, I'll talk to the operator. But, people want to hear. You have your circle of friends and they need you and the world needs you. They don't want you in a little box staying by yourself. So once they can move on, they can make things a lot better for themselves and for those around them.
I think that's a great take on it. I know Jason wanted to get into it. We're running super short on time. As Jason always says, these fly by. So what's the Reader's Digest of the bank robbery?
Yeah.
I after I got attacked in 78, I got married in June of 78, which it didn't last. It was probably not a good timing wise, but I worked at a bank and I was a teller, and I had lunch and I was coming back to my teller window. And I looked in line. There's this young guy that we weren't used to. It's usually a Century 21 is the subdivision that the bank was in, and everyone had blue or white hair that came in. So this young guy was standing in line, and I was the next available teller. So he came over and he put a little leather pouch on the counter, and he said, "I want all your money." And at that point, boom, my head is just a flutter. I don't know what he said after that. So I'm opening my drawer and I'm looking, and I said, well, do I give him 20s first or ones first? They didn't teach me this in teller school. And as he's saying, I want all your money. He opened his little purse and there was a gun in it. And he said, I don't want to take that out and I don't want to hurt you, but I want your money. While this is happening, the head teller was behind me and she knew that something was going on. So she activated the quiet, call the police button, and they came in and they were behind me at the drive-through window. And I was looking forward through the lobby and he was looking behind me at the drive-through. And that's when he saw the police officer driving through. So this guy got his stuff and ran. And I didn't know the cop was back there. And I'm like, yeah, you take it. You get out of here. And I thought, yeah, I'm a badass.
Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. But I heard fire shots in the street and everything, but they did catch him. I had to identify him, but it never went to trial for whatever reason.
Geez.
I was kind of glad, but so.
Yeah. Listen, I can't thank you enough, Kathy. We got to cut this short, but remember, everybody, buy the book. If you're if you're just a reader and you're interested in that, buy the book. It's going to a good person. She wants to share the story. It's from the parts that I've read through it already, it's fantastic, and it'll definitely keep your attention. There's so much stuff that's on the internet. Once again, you could watch, there's a documentary about Bundy on there right now on Netflix that's actually pretty well done, actually, and it's interesting. And I don't know. Any final thoughts? Kathy, what's the final thought for the day from you?
Just be happy. It's a world out there that you can enjoy no matter what you've been through. It's something
Well-
out there to go out, let the sun shine on your face, look at the leaves on a tree, look at the bugs on the ground, and just enjoy it. Just enjoy
I love
everything
it.
there is out there.
Well said. Tell
Very well
Scott,
said.
your husband, thank you for letting us borrow you. I'm sure your son Mike is I'm sure you did a great job with him as well. So
Well, he didn't-
congratulations.
Thank you. He didn't know until 42 that I got attacked by Ted
Oh my
Bundy.
gosh.
Wow. What a shock that was.
Yeah. He read the article in Rolling
Oh my
Stone
gosh.
that was printed.
Wow.
He read it and went, oh my gosh.
Well,
I'm
listen,
like,
Kathy,
yeah.
that's crazy. You are a friend of mine from here on. Sorry, but you're going to be my friend.
Thank you.
If you ever need anything, you reach out, and I might reach out to you for further questions.
Definitely.
We'll be in touch for sure. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Next week,
Thank you,
we're going to
Kathy.
have. Yes, thank you very much. You've been really a joy to have on here. Next week, we're going to have Troy Belt, correctional officer extraordinaire from the Kentucky State Penitentiary. He's not anymore, but he used to be. And that's where death row is in Kentucky. So you talk about somebody, he's like a brother from another mother to me. Great guy. He's going to be a fun time. And actually in 2 weeks, we're going to have a retired FBI profiler that's going to join us. So we've got some great stuff coming our way. Thank you, everybody. We can't do this without you. Thank you again, Kathy. You're the bomb, and I'm a fan of yours. So thank you again. We will catch everybody next week. Take us out, Amanda.